What's up, everybody? I guess some people had asked me to talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general. Well, okay. If you like the kind of work that I do here, do consider supporting my demonetized channel on Patreon. Ain't no way YouTube is ever gonna let me monetize with all this trash that I talk. At any rate, this is in no way, shape, or form financial or investment advice. This is just a little heart to heart from me to you, okay? I'm not an economist. I'm not some kind of a financial expert, advisor, none of those things. I'm just a simple man trying to be rational, logical, trying to make sense. So, just for the record, I'm not saying that that Bitcoin isn't a good or bad investment opportunity, or more precisely, that you couldn't, by means of speculating on Bitcoin, um, make some money. But it seems to me like that ship has, for the most part, sailed. And if you didn't get in early enough, I don't know. I don't know how much more money you can make with this. And it's likely that those that get in last will lose money. Now, I know someone will probably tell me and point out some very pertinent little difference that completely debunks what I'm about to say. Well, I guess you can't really debunk it if I'm just speculating. But to me, things such as Bitcoin, gold, um, they look like Ponzi schemes to me, man. Pyramid schemes. The people that get in early make most of the money, and the later you get in, the less money you make, until you don't make any money. And again, people that get in last maybe even lose money. I don't know. It seems to at least have that in common with these Ponzi schemes, triangle schemes. And before we start talking about this money or currency, because I may use these terms interchangeably, or depending on what the context is, which you may or may not be able to pick up, let's talk about the difference between money and currency. Now, I know there is a group of ideologues, mostly, Austrian economists or people who are pro that, gold bugs, so on and so forth, who will tell you that, money is this and currency is that. And if you start digging really, really deep into what it is that they're saying, you'll see that there is no real consensus as to what that is, and the differences that they think they are elucidating become murkier and murkier, where you get to a point where you're just like, what are you talking about? You're not making any sense. You're not really explaining this. What is the difference? Can you just make it simple? They can't, right? Because then you ask them, well, what about this financial instrument? Is it money or is it currency? Oh, it's kind of both, but blah, blah, blah. Come on, man. These people took the concepts that already exist, already have very clearly defined definitions, and they reverse engineer them to fit the preconceived notion. What is their preconceived notion? Again, this is what ideologues do. I can't stress that enough. What is their preconceived notion, right? That there is good money and then there's bad money. Or there's good money, that which is money, and then there's bad currency, fiat currency, right? And then they have that preconceived notion because they want to sell you gold. Because they want gold to go up in price so they can get rich, right? That's that Ponzi scheme I've been talking about. They pump and dump gold. Cuties. And then, so gold has to be good, right? That's money, and everything else, or most other things, are bad. They're currency. No. Money and currency are essentially the same thing. The difference is, well, everybody knows what money is, right? Everybody knows what that is. It's some kind of financial instrument you take somewhere to a retailer or a service, and you get something for it. It's accepted for a good or a service, right? That's basically money. Currency. Well, what is currency? What's the root word of currency? Current, right? So what's currency? Well, it's the current flowing through your economy. It's the financial current that dominates any particular economy, right? Currency. So in the United States, the currency is the dollar. In Great Britain, it is the pound, right? But both are money in both economies, because there are places where you could take the dollar in England, let's say, and get something for it, if only the pound or whatever. And you could also do a little bit of something with the pound in the United States just the same. So they're both recognized as money, but the currency of the United States. This is how simple this shit is, really. But these gold bugs, it really takes a financial expert and this belief in authority to be able to dupe you into giving up your own agency and giving them authority, basically, right? It takes a slick talker, somebody who pretends to know what they're talking about, uses certain kind of terms that most people may not understand, takes terms that you think you understand and confuses them, the terms, and you, so that you no longer understand them, and you give away your agency, your power. That's kind of nasty. Your understanding of the world, and you assume theirs, because it's this. These sort of games are always being played on us, right? These people, if you assume basically the rules of the game that they set, they cannot lose, right? They write the rules of the game, they get in early, they position themselves well enough, and they convince suckers to play their game when they already have gotten ahead of everybody else, basically. Look, I could be wrong about this or that here and there, but I really couldn't give two shits. This is just my opinion. You could take it or leave it. It really doesn't matter to me. I just like to talk about certain things, I guess. So, yeah. Going back to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, or that sort of kind of money. Look, all these people telling you that it's gonna save the world or how good it is for us. I mean, how? Why? How is this? And this whole idea that you're somehow anti-system, or you're outside of the system, or you're countering this evil system that we live in by using cryptocurrency that's valued in dollars. I mean, fucking hell, it really doesn't take a genius to realize how stupid that is, right? Because ultimately, what is Bitcoin? And look, I understand that, like, well, I don't really understand, but from what I think is that, a bunch of nerds, and I don't know if this still goes on like that or not anymore. I don't know, but a bunch of nerds like turned on their computers and they mined, quote unquote, mined this currency. What is it backed by, first and foremost? Somebody let me know. What is this currency backed by? Okay, who issues this currency, and can I take this currency to the issuer and get something for it? Because if I can't, and it's just valued in dollars, then it's just as terrible as the dollar is, isn't it? How is it any different? Now, most of us believe that the current financial problem has a lot to do with just too much money being out there, the economy being overinflated. So please explain to me how adding more of this same kind of currency, digital or not, how is that solving the problem? How is that helping this world? If the problem is creating money, how is a bunch of dorks turning on their computers and quote unquote printing more money, inflating the economy even more? How is that the solution? How is that better? And what happens when the internet gets turned off, right? Or there's no electricity? What's your Bitcoin worth, right? Absolutely nothing. Again, I'm not going to pretend to understand the creation of this money, but it just sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me, man. I don't see any value in it. The only reason why it's gone up in price is because of the demand, because people got into it and it's been promoted, hyped up, advertised, and people bought into it and inflated the price of it. The only reason why the price of Bitcoin has gone up is because people are willing to pay more, trade in more dollars for it. But how is it any different when it's completely interchangeable with the dollar? I'm not saying it's completely the same, but it's part of the same system, just like gold, right? Ultimately, all the gold bugs, what they're going to do is take their gold and exchange it for whatever the currency is, right? Because they're both money. In a sense, anyway. So, look, any sort of currency or money that basically operates on a large scale comes with a lot of pitfalls and disadvantages, and is really how people externalize their power, right? Because every single community on this planet, provided they produce something, can have their own money. People are just brainwashed and indoctrinated, and they don't know that they can, and or they're not willing to try doing it. There have been examples of local autonomous currencies succeeding. You know, I'm not saying it's necessarily easy or that it wouldn't take a lot of work and or some kind of cooperation from a more centralized body, authority, right? Or maybe some kind of basically the best way forward, insofar as I can tell, for all of us would be to have a bunch of autonomous, independent, local currencies, you know, like what the United States used to look like, that are used in communities that produce stuff. And if there's something that your community doesn't produce but it wants, then it could either take a product or the currency that they use and try to use that currency in an adjacent community or some other community somewhere else that produces a product that you lack, and go there with your currency and tell them, look, we're gonna give you $100,000 of the dollars that we use here for 5 or 6 vehicles that you produce over there, and you can take this currency we give you and redeem it at our farms for, I don't know, 18 tons of corn or 2 tons of pork meat, or, you know, 3, I don't know, cisterns full of cow's milk, or any combination of any of these products, right? Or 16,000 pairs of shoes, or this or that, or whatever. So whatever your community produces, right? That money is backed by the product that comes out of your community. So, and this is how things used to work. Or you could just take, you know, a whole bunch of your corn to a different community that produces something you don't have, like cars, and see if you could barter for it. You probably could, right? Or just give him a certain amount of your currency, and that will be credit for any other things that are produced in your community. It's really not that difficult, but this would take power away from central authority, and this would make us a lot more powerful, a lot more autonomous, and a lot wealthier. That's for sure, right? We wouldn't be paying any taxes to anybody because we're not using their money, right? But, you know, I understand it's kind of a pipe dream, but that's really the only way if you want to talk about. You can't just create some kind of miraculous financial system or currency or money, be it gold or whatever, and think that just by changing the face of one facet of this fucked up economy that we have, that you think that's going to completely revolutionize the way this fucked up economy works. It's not. The money in any particular economy is just really, yeah, it's an integral part of that economy, but it's also a byproduct or something that goes hand in hand with that economy. So as long as you're using that currency, that's the economy that you're working from within. So whether it's Bitcoin or gold, again, as long as it's denominated in dollars or whatever the currency is, then it's really just part of that economy. And the reason why this sort of thing appeals to people is because, well, most people are dependent on the government tit, and they just want to pat themselves on the back, acting like they're some kind of rebels or something, when all that they're doing is just supporting the very government that, or power structure that exploits them. You're no rebel because you support cryptocurrency or some shit like that. You're not a rebel. You're not outside of the system. You're an integral part of it, and you're actually helping this beast system exist instead of thinking outside of the box and trying to create your own shit. Right? You're taking all this energy and you're feeding it into the same system that's oppressing you right now. Instead of, again, creating your own shit. But that's just the problem, right? People, for the most part, don't create anything. They're just consumers. People, for the most part, are intellectually lazy. Like, a lot of people work hard, but they just work for somebody else. They're just being exploited by someone else. And a lot of them don't really create anything. Like graphic design, fucking kill yourself if that's what you do. I'm sorry, just kill yourself. That's just useless bullshit used to sell us more useless bullshit we don't need. Fuck your graphic design. Can you produce something worthwhile that people need and want? But more so need than want. Just because there's a demand for bullshit, that doesn't mean it's not bullshit, right? But most people's jobs today are in the service industry sector, where it's really fulfilling mostly wants, not really needs, and no one really creates anything. People have completely externalized their power. They're no longer producers, so they have to rely on the corporations to produce the shit for them, even though these corporations need these people to produce the shit in the first place. Okay, so we're all, to a certain degree, and the problem is that most people can't see this, are dependent on the system to provide us with food, clothing, shelter, whatever it is, right? Most people can't fathom living outside of cities. They can't make it on their own, right? They talk about being American, how great America is, but the way America was built was by people going into uncharted territory and busting their ass, creating stuff, building things, right? Making it on their own, and that included currency, right? With that came their own currency because they needed that to facilitate trade. You think you're going to step into this system that's so exploitative and all fucked up? You think you're going to just step into it, be a part of it, and you're going to somehow undermine it? I mean, how fucking naive can people be? But this is what this sort of rhetoric is used to sell you this Bitcoin, because the people that got in first stand to make the most money. And eventually somebody's going to be left hanging, holding a fucking bag. So, whatever, man. That's what I think about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. It's just one last thing. It's a way of transitioning people to the digital dollar, which is what's coming. And in a way, all that Bitcoin is just a form of the digital dollar, because it's digital and it's denominated in dollars. Okay, so it's really just getting everybody primed, brainwashed, used to seeing money as completely digital, as something that you no longer hold in your pocket, and it's completely tracked, monitored. There's not going to be any, like, every single transaction on the planet is going to be taxed, and so on and so forth. So if you're pushing Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, any sort of digital currency, that is exactly what you're doing. Especially if you're not producing and creating anything, really, anything that people need. You're just part of this system, you're dependent on it, and you're fucking lying to yourself. So that's it. That's all I gotta say about fucking cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Which isn't to say that some people won't make bank on this shit. And off the backs of the suckers that will suffer. How is that not theft? Of course it is. Take care.